I'm Steve Solombrino. I'm a past president of the club and held other offices as well. This is the North Shore Motor Club in Wakefield, Massachusetts, located right down in Main Street, downtown. This layout's HO scale. It's pretty large. We have a space that's about 30 by 90. Then we have about 600 feet of mainline track. Or I should say a mainline run of about 600 feet. The club is basically named after the location. We're here on the North Shore of Massachusetts, which is obviously north of Boston. We call the club the Chesapeake system, because essentially we're trying to make believe we're running a railroad from Tidewater and Chesapeake Bay up into Appalachia and beyond, and try to represent the traffic that a railroad like that would actually be running. So this started in 1979 when a group of guys who decided they wanted a club got together. They got a mailing list from I think the local NMRA hub division, and they sent letters out to everybody. They said, hey, we're going to start a club, yada yada. I think initially they wanted to have a round robin thing, which is where everybody would do work on each other's layouts, and you'd visit each other's layouts over time. But then they decided they wanted a more permanent thing, and that kind of came about when one of the ringleaders at the NMRA gave them his layout. He was an older guy at the time, and he was going to have to move or something, and they wound up with this substantial layout, really. Moved it in here, and then they decided that, well, look at all the space we have, why are we messing around with this used layout? And they proceeded to design the empire that we've been working on since 1979. Well, the challenges in creating the layout was, first of all, to really determine how much space we wanted just for the layout itself. Because there had to be other things, other functions that had to be fit into the room. So we needed space for things like storage, we needed space for meetings, we needed space for workspace. So once they got that ironed out, then they had to kind of figure out what they wanted to do. So we're modeling essentially the Chesapeake in Ohio in the late 1950s. Once they got to that, we had a couple of people that had some experience in designing layouts, and they came up with a plan, which we've been following ever since, with very few changes actually over the years. And we still haven't finished, but we're well along, and it's worked out pretty well for us. The whole concept is something that we've totally embraced, and it's worked out well for us. Well, the goal for the club is pretty simple. It's a pretty selfish goal. All we care about is whether or not we have a layout that works. Try to keep the layout moving. In other words, make sure everything works. Everybody participates in any way they wish. We don't have any requirements, so in other words, you don't have to be skilled at anything. Though we share skills, we try to bring people's skills levels up over time. We certainly can encompass anything dealing with the entire motor railroad hobby, which we've presented right here. And we've brought a lot of people on and raised their skills, and they have all contributed to the layout one way or another, whether it's painting the floor, or hand laying track, or building structures, or doing electronics. It's a pretty diverse group of skills that you need to make this all work, and fortunately we've always been well stocked on people who can do all the skills that we need. What's next for the layout is basically there's two things going on here, and what we see in the near future. One thing is, which of course we're trying to push to the end game here to actually fill out the entire plan. But the other thing is we're starting to do a lot of rework in a lot of areas, because some of the scenery's been here since like 1980, showing its age. So we've been replacing some of the older scenery in order to bring things up to more current standards. And what that enables us to do is to always have something for everybody to do. So there's always carpentry to do, there's always electronics to do, scenery to do, structures, rolling stock, all that sort of thing. Plus the organized operating sessions. But we pretty much want to keep doing what we've always been doing, but those are the two focuses. Replacing stuff that needs some work, and actually finishing up the total plan of the layout, which again we haven't quite finished yet, but we're getting a lot closer. Yeah, we're down the far end here up to my left shoulder. We're working on a port area, which is going to be a pretty substantial amount of work to do there. So it's going to be an interface between the railroad and ocean-going ships. So there'll be dock facilities and all kinds of bulk handling facilities and manufacturing facilities, all the sort of things you might expect to think of like Baltimore Harbor, for example, back in the 50s. It's pretty much what we're trying to depict there. I kind of like the area over by Campanella Ridge, which is one of the earliest parts of the layout. But what I like over there is you can kind of stand in one spot, and because it kind of wraps around and crosses over itself, there's a lot of layout to be covered by a train without having to run around the place. But I like the scenery. I like the way it's been pulled off with the towns and the businesses that that railroad served, and just the basic concept of how they put that together over there.
My name's Mark Pelletier. I've been here for about 9 years now. So my family and I used to attend the Greenberg show at the Shriners Auditorium, and there was a table, North Shore Model Road table. They were selling equipment, and so I bought a train from them, and then my daughter was there. She said, "Dad, you should probably try and join this club. Take one of their business cards." So I did. I got home, I tested out the locomotive. It didn't run on my layout, so that was like Saturday, and on Tuesday I showed up at the club and I said, "I have a problem with the locomotive I bought from you, and I'd like to get my money back," or whatever. And so they said, "No problem." I got my money back, gave me an app, and then I came down the hallway. I saw the layout. They couldn't get me out unless they hit me with a stick, because I had been into model railroad for, at that point, probably about 12 years. I had a layout at home. So I filled out an application, and within 3 months I became a member. I've been on the board, I've been the vice president, and I've been the president. And I'm currently on the board here. What I like to do is I like to run trains. I'm an accountant. I don't have any scenery skills, I don't have any track skills, I don't have any structure skills, but somehow I have interpersonal skills. So that's why I decided I would try to help you make the connection here, because I can do that kind of stuff, you know. So I like to run my trains, and one of the things I liked to do when I first got here was to go on routes that were off the main line. You tend to learn a lot of stuff about the layout by trying different things, and it just makes so instead of just running around in a circle, you know, you go like this and you do the different things and all. So it tends to make it challenging and more exciting to explore hidden track, you know, that kind of thing, and figure out how to turn your train in the back so you go one direction and then you turn your train and then you can go the other direction. So that makes it a different route once you change direction. So that provides the excitement for me. Well, I like to operate my own equipment, but I'm actually a Bangor and Aroostook guy. In 1998, my family and I rented a 1919 fully restored wood-sided Bangor and Aroostook caboose for a weekend and traveled from Tilton, New Hampshire up to Loon Mountain for $175. I had 3 kids at the time, and it was the greatest experience of my life. And it actually it turned me in a different direction. It turned me to become a Bangor and Aroostook fan. And from that, I then started modeling more New England railroads like Boston and Maine Central. And it turns out that my grandfather worked on the Maine Central many, many, many years ago. I don't know how long he worked there for. I don't know what he did there, but the family Bible, which is their 50th anniversary celebration conflagration, indicated that he worked on the Maine Central Railroad. So I take that as, okay, now I'm going to wear that badge for a while. So I model Bangor and Aroostook, and I model Maine Central. So those are my favorite trains to run.
All right, so first Thursday of the month, we have a meeting, an evening meeting. That's basically we just do basic club business there. Tuesdays and Thursdays are generally work nights where club members will come down, and sometimes they'll be working alone, sometimes they'll be working in groups. But basically, that's kind of the focus time for doing work on the layout. But people come down here 24/7, 365, because we all have access. And people do work on the layout at will, anytime. And you'd be surprised. You'll come in on a Thursday night, you haven't been here for a week, and it's this whole new thing to take in because somebody's been working on their own time during the middle of the week, and you had no idea they were here. And it's a big surprise, but that's how that is. Then as far as opening to the public, we do run some serious open houses about twice a year, spring and fall sort of thing. But the other thing is, people are welcome to come in on Thursday nights and visit the club, because we're always here on Thursdays no matter what. We have a website. Just Google Not So Monorero Club and you can find everything that's going on there. We try to keep that up to date with respect to future events like open houses. You can find some photographs there. You can probably find some links to some videos. And it's an easy way to get a hold of us because there's an email contact information there, as well as a telephone that actually works here. And you can contact us through that and learn more about the club.
Can you line me in very back track on that side? Yes. On the panel.